real quick, unfortunately, with all the strides that social media is making, I think it's having the reverse effect on us. I think it's definitely desocializing us. Now, I'm aware that that is an overused, overdone sentiment to have about social media. I'm sharp, honey. But I think it's one of those things where you can be aware that you're an a-hole, but are you going to do anything to change it? And it's like, I think we're aware that we're a little less interactive. Now, the concept of streaming definitely is changing my mind a little bit on that, because, you know, you gotta be social with the streaming, you know what I mean? But I still feel like that's like a very niche thing. Like, you really gotta be a certain type of specific individual person to like do streaming. And I'm not saying that in a negative way. I'm just saying, like, to actually do that takes like different type of balls, bro. But like, you know, let's take out streaming for a little bit, because even then, think about how we socialize on the stream. It's just people commenting. Just when I think about like the male loneliness epidemic that's going on, and just how everything is just topsy-turvy these days. When I look at old movies from the past, and you know, look at the way that they portrayed romance. Like, it was very much these socially active people out living their lives, doing what they do, and like, you know, normally it's the guy sees the girl and he's like, oh, I gotta have her, or you know, the girl is so like dumbfounded over the guy, she like embarrasses herself, you know. But nonetheless, like, it's people out approaching one another, like, you know, men approaching women, women approaching men, people approaching people. Like, you know, do we really do that anymore? And I'm trying to think of it like generationally, right? And you know, there's like this running discourse out on how there's like Gen Z A and then Gen Z B. That's not necessarily what they call it, but I've kind of had that ideology for like a little while now. And at the time, that's what I called it, Gen Z A and Gen Z B. And Gen Z A would be somebody like me, like somebody in their late 20s, you know, just trying to figure it out. And then Gen Z B would be the people that are like early 20s. And, you know, obviously the cutoff, up until the cutoff before you get to Gen Alpha or whatever like that. I feel like Gen Z B, I feel like they got it down. Like, I feel like they really use social media right. Like, social media be social AF for them, bro. There's so many different apps. There's so many different, you know. And like, I feel like they didn't have to go through the same sort of trauma that like Gen Z A had to, and even millennials had to, as far as like social media being such a new thing, and how like that junk was very like cruel in the beginning, especially Instagram, honey. Like, you could not get away with, you know, the way people are on Instagram now, bro. Like, which was the whole reason why people were kind of like anti-Insta for a while, because it was like, oh, in order for you to go big on that app, you gotta like present a certain type of lifestyle and do all of this other stuff. Like, and we were all aware that people were faking, because then it was this weird daisy chain where like normally if the person was big on Instagram, they were big on YouTube, and then you go to their YouTube and you get to see like all the crazy stuff they deal with in their life, and you're just like, oh, you're actually not happy. But that's the type of social media that we kind of came up in. Like, social media wasn't really social, it was more performative, and then when they brought in ads and stuff, it became a business. And I feel like Gen Z B and everybody below them that are coming up, they got it down. Like, they be, you know, they got businesses, they be 17, 21, 25, like, businesses booming. And I'm just like, yes, turn up. To be young, turn and rich. Like, yes, I'm so happy for them. I feel like even with all of these strides, our souls are disappearing. And you can it's evident when you go out. Like, when I be out, I'm not necessarily always on my phone. Like, sometimes I'll just sit and I'll just look around. And when you look around, when you observe, like, people are uncomfortable with stillness. People are uncomfortable being in the presence of other people. I feel like we are a generation that has a tremendous amount of social anxiety, which is crazy because, like, if you look outside on social media, you know, from the outside looking in, it looked like it's turned out there. And then you go outside and it's just like, what the hell is this? This is not the outside that my ancestors told me about. This is not the outside that shows like Girlfriends got me hype about. Like, this is not the outside that I thought I was going to be experiencing, especially at this time during my life. What happened to just the romancing of life? You know what I mean? Like, now conversations end with, oh, I'll hit you, I'll DM you, I'll message you. And it's just like, I'm right in front of you. Like, let's just schedule something now. Lock it in now. Stay true to our word and show up. Our phones are middlemen to our lives. Like, that's crazy. That's crazy to me. Especially as somebody that is like sort of old fashioned. Like, it's weird because the older I get, I find myself having like conservative views, not the next ones, but just conservative views just about things. And I find myself nostalgic for a time that I never lived in. I worry about humanity sometimes, and other times it's just like, we gonna be alright. We're gonna be alright. But I just worry about human interaction. I worry about our souls. I worry about human development. You know what I mean? Last thing, I don't know if y'all remember in history class when they were teaching us about just the ages, the eras of time. And there was a time in human history where like things was going off. Science, math, art, literature. Niggas was smart. Niggas was dumb. But like, people were living and there were evidence of this. And then you get to the Dark Ages. And specifically, there's like a beat in the Dark Ages where like people just stopped writing. They just stopped leaving any sort of trace, any sort of evidence of culture or anything. They just was illiterate. Like, they just stopped. And you know, the saying goes that history repeats itself. And I wonder if the tides are turning back in that favor for us. I hope not.